The black SUV slammed into the storefront at exactly 2:47 a.m., shattering glass across Lincoln Avenue like diamonds under the streetlights. Jae-Min Calder stepped through the wreckage with the calm of a man entering his own office, his tailored charcoal suit unmarred except for a single shard of glass he'd brushed from his shoulder. Three men scrambled backward inside the convenience store, their hands raised, their faces pale with the kind of terror that comes from recognizing death before it arrives. "Mr. Calder, we can explain," the one in the middle started, but Jae-Min raised a single finger and the words died in the man's throat. "You're 2 weeks late," Jae-Min said, his voice so quiet it barely carried over the hum of the refrigerators. "I don't accept explanations. I accept payment or consequences." His lieutenant, a broad-shouldered man named Chen, moved forward with a black duffel bag. The three men exchanged glances, their desperation palpable in the fluorescent lighting. Jae-Min checked his watch and waited. Patience was the currency of power, and he had purchased more of both than most men would see in 10 lifetimes. "We have half," the middleman finally said, his accent thick with fear. "The rest, we need 3 more days." "Just 3 days, Mr. Calder. We swear." "You swear?" Jae-Min repeated, and something in his tone made all three men flinch. "On what? Your word?" "Your word was the payment date we agreed upon." "Your word is already broken." He stepped closer. "In my organization, broken words are broken bones. It's a simple equation." Chen cracked his knuckles, a sound like small-caliber gunfire in the enclosed space. The men pressed themselves against the back wall, knocking over displays of chips and candy. Jae-Min surveyed them with those heavy-lidded eyes that revealed nothing, felt nothing, promised everything they feared. "Please," the youngest one whispered. "My sister, she's sick. The medical bills." "Not my concern," Jae-Min said. He nodded to Chen, who moved forward. "You have until sunrise to produce the full amount. If you cannot, you know what happens." He turned toward the shattered entrance when a small voice cut through the tension like a bell. "Why are you being mean to them?" Every head turned. Standing in the doorway, framed by jagged glass and neon glow, was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 6 or 7, wearing pink pajamas with cartoon characters and holding a worn stuffed rabbit by one ear. Her eyes, wide, dark, and completely unafraid, fixed on Jae-Min with the kind of directness that adults had learned to avoid. For 3 full seconds, no one moved. Jae-Min Calder, a man who commanded an empire built on fear and precision, stood frozen by the appearance of a child in pink pajamas. "Go home," Jae-Min said, his voice still quiet, but edged with confusion. "This isn't a place for children." "I live upstairs," the girl said, pointing toward a narrow staircase behind the counter. "The noise woke me up." "You broke the window." "That's not nice." "Nice," Jae-Min repeated, the word foreign in his mouth. "No. I suppose it isn't. Nevertheless, you should return to your apartment. Now, are you going to hurt those men?" the girl asked, taking a step inside, her bare feet somehow finding the only clear path through the glass. "Because my mama says hurting people is wrong. Even when you're angry." Chen made a low sound in his throat. The three men watched with expressions of dawning hope, as if this child might be their salvation. Jae-Min felt the situation slipping from his control in a way that gunfire never had, that police raids never had. A little girl in cartoon pajamas was dismantling his authority with nothing but honest questions. "Your mama," Jae-Min said slowly, "is not here. And these men made promises they didn't keep. There are consequences for broken promises." "Did they say sorry?" the girl asked. She'd reached the counter now, setting her stuffed rabbit on the scarred surface. "Sometimes when I break a promise to mama, I say sorry, and I try really hard not to do it again. Then it's okay." "It's not that simple." "Why not?" The question hung in the air. Jae-Min found himself looking at this child. Really looking. And seeing something he hadn't encountered in 15 years. Innocence. Not naivety or stupidity or weakness, but genuine innocence, the kind that believed the world could be simple if people just tried hard enough. "Because," he said, and stopped, because every answer would require explaining things no child should understand. "Because this is business." "Oh," the girl said. "Then, are you lonely?" The question struck Jae-Min like a physical blow. Chen straightened, his hand moving away from his weapon, watching his boss with wariness. The three men stopped breathing altogether. "Lonely?" Jae-Min said, the word coming out sharper than intended. "No, I'm not lonely. You look lonely, the girl insisted with absolute certainty. My mama says people who hurt other people are usually just lonely and sad inside. Are you sad inside? Jae-Min Calder had been interrogated by federal agents, challenged by rival bosses, questioned by subordinates who forgot their place. But no one had ever asked him if he was sad inside. The audacity of it, the pure, unfiltered honesty, left him momentarily speechless. I think, he said carefully, you should ask your mother to teach you about inappropriate questions. Mama's sleeping, the girl said. She works really hard. She cleans offices all night, and then she comes home and she's so tired. But she still reads me stories before bed every single time. Something shifted in Jae-Min's chest, a sensation he couldn't immediately identify. A mother who worked through exhaustion, who lived in a cramped apartment above a convenience store, who still read bedtime stories. There was a kind of strength in that he recognized. Your mother sounds dedicated, he said. She's the best mama in the whole world. Sometimes I worry about her, though. She says everything's okay, but I hear her crying sometimes when she thinks I'm asleep. I don't like it when she cries. Chen shifted uncomfortably. The three men remained frozen. Jae-Min felt the weight of multiple gazes on him. What's your name? He asked, unsure why it mattered. Miles, the girl said. Well, my real name is Michaela, but everyone calls me Miles because I ask lots and lots of questions and Mama says I could talk for miles and miles. What's your name? Jae-Min. That's a pretty name. Are you from Korea? My friend at school is from Korea and he taught me how to say hello. Annyeonghaseyo. She pronounced it carefully, proudly. Annyeonghaseyo, Jae-Min replied automatically. And Miles beamed at him with such genuine delight that something inside him cracked. You said it perfect. So you are from Korea. Have you been to Disney World? The conversational whiplash would have been comical if Jae-Min weren't acutely aware that he was standing in a destroyed storefront at 3 a.m, having a surreal conversation with a child while three men waited to learn if they'd live to see dawn. I've never been to Disney World, he said. Never? But you're a grown-up. Grown-ups can go anywhere they want. Miles tilted her head, studying him. Maybe you should go. It might make you less lonely. I'm not. Jae-Min started, then stopped. What was he doing? Why was he allowing this conversation to continue? It's late. You need to go back to bed. Will you still hurt those men if I go? Miles asked, her voice small now, worried. Jae-Min looked at the three men, then at Chen, then back at the child who had somehow wandered into his world and upended it with nothing but questions and honesty. No, he heard himself say. Not tonight. Chen's eyebrows shot up. The three men sagged with relief. Miles smiled, gap-toothed and bright. See? I knew you weren't mean, she said. You're just pretending to be mean, but really you're nice inside. I'm not nice, Jae-Min said firmly. I'm giving them an extension. 1 week. If they don't pay by then, there will be consequences. He was speaking to the men now. They nodded frantically, stammering thanks. Jae-Min waved Chen toward the door, then looked back at Miles. Go to bed, and don't come downstairs when you hear noises at night. It's dangerous. Okay? Miles said. Hey, do you want to come to my house for Christmas? The question stopped Jae-Min mid-step. What? Christmas? It's in like 3 weeks. Mama says we can't afford a tree this year, but we're still going to make cookies and watch movies. You should come. You look like you don't have anyone to spend Christmas with. For the second time in 10 minutes, Jae-Min found himself completely disarmed. Christmas. He hadn't celebrated Christmas since before. The very idea of sitting in a cramped apartment eating cookies was so foreign to his existence his brain struggled to process it. I don't do Christmas, he said. Everybody does Christmas, Miles insisted. Even if you don't get presents, you can still have Christmas. It's about being together with people you care about. Don't you have people you care about? No, Jae-Min said, and the honesty surprised him. I don't. Miles looked at him with such profound sadness he had to look away. That's the saddest thing I ever heard. You should come for Christmas. Ariana Brooks woke to sunlight through thin curtains and her daughter singing in the kitchen. She allowed herself 30 seconds of stillness, just breathing, gathering energy to face another day. Mama, the window people are here. Window people? Ariana dragged herself out of bed, pulling on a robe,
and padded into the living room. Miles pressed her face against their window. There's trucks and everything. They're fixing Mr. Novak's store. Ariana's heart sank. The store. She'd heard the crash around 3 that morning, had tried to ignore it because getting involved in street drama was a luxury she couldn't afford. Baby, come away from the window, she said, joining Miles and peering down. 3 trucks, at least a dozen workers, enough glass and equipment to rebuild the entire storefront. This wasn't a patch job. This was professional, expensive, the kind of immediate response that only serious money could buy. Did you go downstairs last night? Ariana asked, instinct making her voice sharp. After the noise, Miles turned to her, guilt written across her face. Maybe? Miles, Michaela Brooks. I was worried. I thought maybe Mr. Novak was hurt, and you were sleeping so hard, and I just wanted to check. We've talked about this. You don't go downstairs alone at night. Ever. Do you understand me? But Mama. No buts. This neighborhood isn't safe, and you're 7 years old. Ariana stopped, taking a breath, forcing back fear. What did you see down there? Miles bit her lip. There were some men. They looked scared. And there was this other man, the one who broke the window, I think. And he looked really sad, even though he was trying to be tough. His name is Jae-Min, and he's from Korea, and I invited him to Christmas. The words tumbled out. Ariana felt her legs weaken and sat down hard on their secondhand couch. You invited who to what? The sad man. To Christmas. He said he didn't have anyone to spend it with, and that's just so sad, Mama. Nobody should be alone on Christmas. Miles. Ariana pressed her fingers to her temples. Baby. You can't just invite strange men to our home. That's not safe. And this man, he broke Mr. Novak's window. That means he was doing something bad, something violent. He wasn't bad. Miles insisted with passionate certainty. He was just lonely and sad and pretending to be mean, but I could tell. He has sad eyes, Mama. Like sometimes you have when you think I'm not looking. That observation hit harder than Ariana wanted to admit. She studied her daughter's face. So earnest, so sure, so young. 7 years old. 7 years of Ariana working herself to exhaustion, trying to shield her baby from harsh realities, while knowing Miles understood far more than any child should. Okay, Ariana said slowly. Let's say this man was lonely and sad. That still doesn't mean he's safe. People who break windows and scare others, even if they're hurting inside, those are people who can hurt us too. Do you understand? I guess. Miles didn't sound convinced, but he was nice to me. And he told the scared men he wouldn't hurt them. And now, he's fixing the window. That's nice. Ariana looked back at the efficient crew already installing new glass. The timing couldn't be coincidental. Her blood ran cold. Miles. This man. Did he arrive in a nice car? A really big one. Black and shiny. Were there other men with him? One. He didn't talk much. And they were talking to Mr. Novak's night clerks. The ones who ran the underground gambling operation everyone knew about, but nobody discussed. The ones who'd been looking nervous lately. Yeah, they looked really scared, Mama. But then I asked Jae-Min not to hurt them, and he said okay. Oh God. Miles had walked into the middle of a shakedown or collection. Her baby, her sweet, curious baby, had wandered into a situation that could have gotten her killed. Ariana pulled Miles into her lap, holding her tight. You're not in trouble, baby, but I need you to promise me something. If you ever see that man again, any strange man, especially men in nice cars, you come straight upstairs. You don't talk to them. You run. Can you promise me that? But Mama. Promise me. Miles. Miles looked at her mother's face and nodded solemnly. I promise. Good. Ariana kissed her forehead. Now, go brush your teeth and get dressed. Miles scampered off and Ariana returned to the window, watching the work crew with new eyes. This wasn't kindness. This was control. This was a message. The man who broke the window was paying to fix it, demonstrating power to destroy and wealth to rebuild on a whim. And her daughter had invited him to Christmas. Ariana pressed her forehead against the cool glass. She'd worked so hard to keep Miles innocent, to let her believe in goodness and kindness. But the world didn't work that way. The world had sharp edges and dangerous men. Her phone buzzed. Her supervisor, asking if she could pick up an extra shift tonight. Ariana closed her eyes. She needed the money. She always needed the money. Miles's inhaler prescription was coming due. Rent was a week away, and the car was making expensive sounds. She needed every shift she could get. But leaving Miles tonight, after knowing she'd wandered into something dangerous. I can do it. Ariana texted back. Because what choice did she have? She'd ask Mrs. Kim from 3B to watch Miles. She'd secure every lock. She'd have the talk again about strangers and safety. She'd do what she always did. Hope her best was enough and pray the universe would be kind just a little longer. Downstairs, the work crew finished the last panel. Ariana watched one man standing apart from the others, surveying the work with authority that needed no announcement. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing clothes too expensive for construction work. As she watched, he looked up at her window. Their eyes met across the distance. Ariana jerked back, heart pounding, but not before she saw him. Really saw him. Sharp features. Controlled bearing. And yes, even from here, she could see what Miles had seen. Sad eyes. Eyes that held something broken behind all that controlled power. He nodded to her, a tiny acknowledgement. Then he turned and walked away, disappearing into a black SUV that pulled up precisely as he reached the curb. The whole scene choreographed, efficient. Mama, what should I wear today? Ariana turned away from the window, pushing down unease. Something warm, baby? It's cold out. She'd lived in this neighborhood for 5 years. She knew the rules. Keep your head down. Don't ask questions. Don't get involved. She'd followed those rules religiously. But Miles didn't understand those rules. And now she'd invited danger to Christmas dinner. Ariana made coffee, helped Miles get dressed, tried to start a normal day in a life that had just tilted off its axis. But she couldn't shake the image of those eyes. Sad eyes in a dangerous face. Power wrapped around loneliness. A man who'd spared people because a little girl asked him to. Nobody should be alone on Christmas. Miles was right. It was sad. But sad men could still be dangerous men. And Ariana had learned through hard experience that sympathy was a luxury she couldn't afford. She'd keep Miles safe. Whatever it took. Even from well-intentioned invitations to lonely strangers. Even from her own daughter's beautiful, naive belief that everyone deserved kindness. The world didn't work that way. Did it? Jae-Min sat in his office 3 days later, staring at a manila folder on his desk. Inside were details about Ariana Brooks and her daughter Miles. He hadn't ordered the background check. Chen had taken the initiative, assuming his boss would want to know about the civilians who'd witnessed the convenience store incident. Ariana Brooks. 32 years old. Single mother, no criminal record. Worked 2 jobs. Overnight office cleaning and weekend shifts at a hospital cafeteria. No father listed on Miles's birth certificate. No family support system visible in the records. Just a woman grinding herself down to dust trying to keep her daughter fed and sheltered. Miles Brooks. 7 years old. Chronic asthma. Straight A student despite missing school occasionally for medical issues. Teacher notes described her as exceptionally bright and curious, sometimes too trusting of strangers. Too trusting of strangers. Like inviting a Korean Mafia boss to Christmas dinner. Jae-Min closed the folder and pushed it across his desk. He shouldn't care. He'd given the 3 men their extension, had the window fixed, and moved on to more important matters. Victor Han was making aggressive moves into his territory. 2 of his distribution networks had been compromised, and there were rumors of federal interest in his shipping operations. He had real problems that required his attention. But he kept thinking about Miles's question. Are you sad inside? And worse, he kept thinking about Ariana Brooks's eyes when she'd looked down at him from that window. Not fear. Though there'd been some of that, not anger. Something more complex. Recognition, maybe. The kind of bone-deep exhaustion he saw in his own mirror. The knowledge that life was a series of impossible choices and you just had to keep choosing anyway. His phone buzzed. Chen's name appeared on the screen. Victor Han just left the Red Dragon. Chen said without preamble. He met with 3 of our suppliers. Offered them 20% more than our current arrangement. Jae-Min's jaw tightened. And 2 declined. One's partaking about it. Which one? Park. The restaurant supply line, of course. Park had always been ambitious, always looking for opportunities to expand. And Victor knew it, had targeted him specifically. This was how territories shifted. Not through violence, though that would come eventually, but through economics. Offer enough money, create enough doubt, and empires crumbled from within. Set up a meeting with Park, Jae-Min said. Tonight. somewhere public, and have surveillance on Victor's movements. If he's making plays this bold, he's planning something bigger. Already on it, boss. Also. Chen hesitated. The Brooks woman. She picked up another shift tonight. She'll be at the Sinclair Tower from 11 to 6. Jae-Min shouldn't have asked, but the daughter? With a neighbor. Mrs. Kim, 3B, why are you telling me this? Because you've looked at that folder 6 times in 3 days, and I thought you should know. Chen's voice was carefully neutral. Sir. Jae-Min ended the call without responding. He had no reason to care about Ariana Brooks' schedule. No reason to know that she was working herself to exhaustion in the Sinclair Tower, one of the properties his organization owned and controlled, where he collected protection fees from every business inside. No reason to calculate that she'd be mopping floors and emptying trash cans in offices where decisions worth millions were made, invisible to the people whose world she cleaned. He stood and walked to his window. His office overlooked the harbor, ships moving in precise patterns, cargo being loaded and unloaded, the machinery of commerce that generated his wealth. He'd built this empire through ruthlessness and calculation. He didn't do sentiment. He didn't do charity. He didn't get involved in the lives of single mothers struggling in apartments above convenience stores. But Miles had asked if he was lonely, and the question had lodged itself in his chest like a bullet he couldn't extract. Yes, he was lonely. He'd been lonely for 15 years, since the day his brother died, and he'd decided that love was weakness, and connection was vulnerability. He'd built walls so high and thick that nothing could touch him, and he'd told himself that was strength. That was survival. But standing here, looking out at his empire, all he felt was empty. His phone rang again. Park. Returning his call. Jae-Min took a breath and answered, slipping back into the role he'd perfected. Controlled, cold, utterly in command. Mr. Park. I understand we need to discuss your business arrangements. The conversation lasted 10 minutes. By the end of it, Park had recommitted to their existing deal and volunteered information about Victor Han's other approaches. Jae-Min hung up satisfied that particular problem was solved, but the victory felt hollow. He pulled the manila folder back toward him and opened it again. Ariana Brooks smiled from a DMV photo, her expression tired but genuine. Miles beamed from a school picture, gap-toothed and joyful. 2 people who had nothing to do with his world, who shouldn't matter to him at all. But they did matter. Somehow, in the space of one brief encounter, they'd mattered. Jae-Min made a decision that his rational mind knew was foolish. He picked up his phone and texted Chen. Which office cleaning company does Brooks work for? The response came seconds later. Platinum Services. Why? I want their contract reviewed. Make sure they're paying their employees properly. Fair wages, benefits, overtime compensation. A long pause. Then, boss, we don't usually get involved in contractor labor practices. We do now. If they're not paying properly, I want to know. And if they're not, we find a new contractor. Understood. Jae-Min set down his phone and immediately questioned what he was doing. This was how it started. Small gestures, tiny cracks in the armor, letting people in. This was how you got hurt. How you got weak. How you ended up like his brother. Dead, because he'd cared about someone more than he'd cared about survival. But Miles had seen something in him that no one else had seen in 15 years. She'd looked past the power and the violence and the carefully constructed walls, and she'd asked if he was sad inside. Not afraid. Not calculating advantage. Just genuinely concerned about a stranger's emotional state. When was the last time anyone had cared about his emotional state? Never. The answer was never. Jae-Min closed the folder and locked it in his desk drawer. He had a meeting with Park in 2 hours, a situation with Victor Han that was escalating toward violence, and a dozen other fires to put out. He didn't have time to think about a woman working overnight shifts and her daughter who asked too many questions. But when midnight came and he was alone in his office, he found himself pulling up the Sinclair Tower security feeds. It took him 3 cameras before he spotted her. Ariana Brooks, pushing a cleaning cart down a hallway, her movements efficient despite obvious exhaustion. She stopped at an office door, unlocked it, disappeared inside. Jae-Min watched her empty trash cans and vacuum floors, moving with the kind of practiced rhythm that spoke to years of muscle memory. She was thorough, careful, professional. At one point she paused, leaning against a desk, and pressed her hand to her lower back. Pain, probably. The kind of chronic ache that came from physical labor and no time to recover. He shouldn't be watching this. It was invasive, inappropriate, the behavior of someone obsessed rather than someone in control. But he couldn't look away. Ariana finished the office and moved to the next one. And the next. And the next. Hour after hour, floor after floor. Invisible and essential. The people who worked in these offices tomorrow would never think about who cleaned their space, who emptied their trash, who made their environment functional. They'd walk in and assume cleanliness appeared by magic. But Jae-Min saw her. He saw the exhaustion and the persistence and the quiet dignity of someone doing hard work because it needed to be done and someone had to do it. Nobody should be alone on Christmas. Miles's invitation echoed in his mind. 3 weeks until Christmas. 3 weeks to decide if he was brave enough to accept kindness from a 7-year-old girl, or if he'd remain in his fortress of isolation, untouchable and utterly alone. 2 weeks passed. Jae-Min told himself he wasn't tracking Ariana Brooks's schedule, but somehow he always knew when she was working. He told himself he wasn't looking for excuses to drive past the convenience store, but the black SUV seemed to navigate that route more frequently than necessary. He told himself he wasn't thinking about Christmas, but December marched forward regardless, decorations appearing in windows, music filling the air, the whole city transforming into something that made his isolation feel sharper. Victor Han made his move on a Tuesday. The attack came at one of Jae-Min's smaller operations. A warehouse near the docks where imported electronics were stored before distribution. Arson? Clean and efficient, time to avoid casualties but destroy inventory worth $2 million. The message was clear. Victor could strike anywhere, anytime, and Jae-Min's empire wasn't as secure as everyone believed. Jae-Min stood in the smoking ruins at dawn, watching firefighters pack up their equipment. Chen stood beside him, tension radiating off him like heat. "We need to respond," Chen said. "Hard. If we don't, every supplier and distributor will see weakness. Victor's testing us. I know what Victor's doing." Jae-Min's voice was flat, emotionless. "He's trying to provoke a war, so let's give him one. Wars are expensive. Wars draw attention. Wars create opportunities for authorities to justify intervention." Jae-Min turned away from the ruins. "We'll respond, but strategically. Cut off his banking access first. Make him burn through reserves. Then we isolate his support structure. That'll take weeks. In the meantime, we show strength through control, not chaos." Jae-Min walked toward the SUV. "Set up a meeting with our allies. I want everyone to understand that this attack changes nothing. Business continues as normal." But it didn't feel normal. For the first time in his career, Jae-Min felt distracted, pulled between the demands of his empire and thoughts of a woman scrubbing floors and a child who'd invited him to Christmas. It was weakness. It was dangerous. It was everything he'd spent 15 years avoiding. That evening, as he reviewed financial reports in his office, his phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Hello?" A woman's voice, cautious, tired. "Ariana Brooks." Jae-Min's grip tightened on the phone. "How did you get this number?" "I asked Mr. Novak. He said you were the one who paid for his window." A pause. "I wanted to thank you for that, but I also wanted to tell you that, Miles. My daughter. She can't stop talking about inviting you to Christmas, and I need you to understand that can't happen. I wasn't planning to come." "Good. Because I don't know who you are exactly, but I know enough. I know men who show up at 3 a.m. and break windows aren't the kind of people who should be around my daughter. No matter what Miles thinks she saw in you." Her words should have bounced off him. He'd been called worse by people far more important. But something in her tone, protective, desperate, resigned, cut deeper than insults could. Your daughter saw loneliness, Jae-Min said. She was right about that. But you're also right. I'm not the kind of person who should be around children. I'm not the kind of person who belongs at Christmas dinner. Then we understand each other. We do. He should have hung up. Instead, how's Miles? Silence on the other end. Then, why do you care? I don't know. The honesty surprised them both. She asked me if I was sad inside, and no one's asked me that in 15 years. I suppose I'm curious about a child who sees things adults have learned to ignore. She's too trusting. Ariana said softly. She thinks everyone can be saved with enough kindness. I'm trying to teach her that the world doesn't work that way without breaking her spirit. It's hard. You're doing well. The school notes say she's exceptional. Another silence, longer this time. You investigated us. Standard procedure. You witnessed a business transaction. I needed to know if there would be complications. And there won't be. You're not involved in anything that concerns me. You're just a woman trying to raise her daughter. I respect that. Respect. Ariana's laugh was bitter. Is that what we're calling it? You investigate my family, watch my daughter's school records, and call it respect? What would you call it? I'd call it exactly what I'm trying to protect Miles from. People who think power means they can intrude wherever they want. The words stung because they were true. Jae-Min had intruded. He'd crossed boundaries without permission, justified it as business necessity, and ignored the violation it represented. He was good at ignoring such things. His whole empire was built on ignoring the human cost of his decisions. You're right, he said. I apologize. The apology seemed to catch her off guard. Okay. Just. Please don't contact us again. Whatever Miles said to you that night, she's 7. She doesn't understand. I know. And if you could maybe not conduct whatever business you conduct at Mr. Novak's store anymore. Miles goes down there after school sometimes, and I can't watch her every second. And if she saw something, if she got caught up in something, I've already moved operations elsewhere. A lie, but one that would give her peace of mind. Your daughter is safe. Thank you. Ariana's voice cracked slightly. I know you probably think I'm overreacting or being paranoid, but she's all I have. Everything I do is for her. If anything happened to her because I wasn't careful enough, nothing will happen to her. Jae-Min surprised himself with the vehemence in his voice. I give you my word. Your word. She sounded skeptical. The word of a man who tells people that broken words mean broken bones. He winced. Miles must have repeated that conversation in detail. My word to you is different. Your daughter reminded me that there are still innocent things in this world worth protecting. I won't be the one who damages that innocence. Ariana was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. She really got to you, didn't she? With all her questions and her big heart. Yes, Jae-Min admitted. She did. She has that effect on people. Her teachers, the neighbors, strangers in the grocery store. Everyone falls a little bit in love with Miles. She just sees good in people, even when it's buried deep. She saw something in me I thought I'd killed off years ago. Maybe you didn't kill it. Maybe you just locked it away. For protection. Ariana sighed. I should go. Miles will be home from Mrs. Kim soon, and I need to make dinner. Miss Brooks. Ariana. If we're going to have strange middle-of-the-night phone conversations, you might as well use my name. Ariana. He tasted the name, found it fit. Miles asked if I was sad inside. The answer is yes. I've been sad for a very long time. But I chose this life knowing what it would cost. Don't let her waste her kindness trying to save me. I'm not worth saving. That's not my decision. Ariana said. Or yours. If Miles has decided you're worth caring about, then you're stuck with it. That's just how she is. She picks people and she doesn't let go. Even when it's dangerous for her. Especially then. She has this idea that love can fix anything. I'm terrified it's going to get her hurt someday. It will, Jae-Min said bluntly. The world punishes people with big hearts. But maybe that's not a reason to stop having one. That's almost philosophical. I have a philosophy degree from Seoul National University. Business wasn't my first choice. What was? Literature. Poetry, specifically. I wanted to teach. Ariana laughed, genuinely surprised. A poetry-loving philosophy major became a, what should I call you? Crime boss sounds so dramatic. Businessman with flexible ethics. That's one way to put it. She paused. How does someone go from poetry to this? Family obligations. Legacy. A brother who needed protecting and choices that seemed inevitable at the time. Jaemin rubbed his eyes. It's a long story. I work nights and raise a 7-year-old. I'm familiar with long stories that don't have happy endings. They fell into silence, but it felt companionable rather than awkward. Jaemin couldn't remember the last time he'd had a conversation like this. Honest, unguarded, with someone who had no agenda beyond protecting her daughter. It was dangerous. It was exactly the kind of connection he'd avoided for 15 years. It was also the first time in 15 years he'd felt like a person instead of a position. The phone calls continued. Not every night, but often enough that Jaemin found himself waiting for them, hoping for them. Ariana would call after her shift, exhausted but unable to sleep, and they'd talk about small things. Miles' latest school project, the broken heater in their apartment, his memories of Seoul, her dreams of a different life. They never discussed his business directly, maintaining a careful fiction that he was just a complicated man with a demanding job rather than someone who trafficked in violence and intimidation. It was easier that way, for both of them. 10 days before Christmas, everything changed. Jaemin was reviewing security footage from one of his restaurants when Chen burst into his office without knocking. Victor Han just grabbed Park, Chen said, his face pale. Snatched him right off the street. 3 SUVs, professional operation, gone in 40 seconds. Jaemin stood slowly. Park? Why Park? He's been feeding us information about Victor's operations. Victor must have figured it out. Chen pulled up a video on his phone. This came through 5 minutes ago. The video showed Park tied to a chair, his face bruised and bloodied. Victor Han stood beside him, smiling at the camera. Jaemin, Victor's voice dripped false friendliness. You've been playing games with my suppliers, freezing my accounts, thinking you're so clever. But you forgot something important. In this business, loyalty isn't bought with money. It's bought with fear. Victor nodded to someone off camera. A gunshot. Park's body jerked. That's what happens to rats, Victor continued. And that's what happens to anyone who thinks they can work against me. Consider this a formal declaration. Your territory is now mine. You have 48 hours to surrender your operations, or everyone you care about starts dying. Starting with. The video cut to different footage. Ariana's apartment building. Miles walking home from school, her backpack bouncing. Jaemin's blood turned to ice. We have eyes on the Brooks family, Victor said, his voice now deadly serious. I know you've been watching them. Don't think I haven't noticed your little obsession with the cleaning lady and her brat. It's sweet, really. Jae-Min Calder, the untouchable boss, brought low by a child's innocent questions. Makes you human. Makes you vulnerable. Victor leaned toward the camera. 48 hours. Or I'll show you what happens to people who make the mistake of mattering to you. The video ended. Jaemin stood paralyzed, every worst fear realized simultaneously. He'd been careful. He'd maintained distance. He'd done everything to ensure his interest in Ariana and Miles remained unknown. But Victor Han hadn't become his primary rival by being stupid. Victor had been watching, waiting, looking for weakness. And Jaemin had handed it to him. Get them, Jaemin said, his voice deadly calm. Right now. Both of them. Bring them to the safe house on Morrison Street. Full security detail. No one in or out without my personal authorization. Boss. If we grab them, Victor will know for certain they matter. He already knows. Jaemin slammed his fist on the desk. He just showed me footage of a 7-year-old girl walking home from school. This isn't a bluff. This is him telling me he can reach anyone, anywhere. So we move them now, before he does. Chen nodded and pulled out his phone, already coordinating. Jae-Min paced his office, mind racing through scenarios and contingencies. This was his fault.
He'd allowed distraction. He'd permitted connection. He'd committed the cardinal sin of his profession. He'd let someone matter. No, two someones. A woman and her daughter who had nothing to do with his world, who'd never asked to be dragged into it, who were now targets because a little girl had seen loneliness in a stranger's eyes. They're scared. Chen reported 15 minutes later. Miss Brooks is refusing to come. Says she doesn't know what this is about, doesn't trust us, wants to call the police. Put her on the phone. Chen handed it over. Ariana's voice came through, tight with fear and anger. Who the hell do you think you are? You send armed men to my daughter's school. Tell me I have to come with you immediately. No explanation. Ariana, listen to me. Jae-Min kept his voice calm, despite the panic clawing at his chest. You and Miles are in danger. Immediate danger. A man named Victor Han is targeting you because of your connection to me. Connection? We don't have a connection. We've had some phone calls. That's enough. In my world, phone calls are connections. Conversations are vulnerabilities. And Victor will exploit anything he can to hurt me. Please, trust me this one time. Come with my people. Let me keep you safe. Safe? You're the reason we're not safe. I know. The admission tasted like ashes. I know, and I'm sorry. This is my fault. But arguing about blame won't protect Miles. Coming with Chen will silence. Then, if anything happens to her, nothing will happen to her. I swear it. Your word and broken bones, right? My word that I'll die before I let anyone touch your daughter. More silence. Finally, we'll come. But when this is over, you stay away from us. Forever. Whatever Miles thought she saw in you, it's not worth this. The line went dead. Chen returned to the office 30 minutes later. They're secure. Morrison Street safe house. 6 guards, full surveillance. I've got teams sweeping for trackers, checking for leaks. And Victor. His people tried to follow our team, but we lost them in the warehouse district. He knows we moved them, but not where. He'll find out eventually. Jae-Min grabbed his jacket. How long can we hold Morrison Street against a full assault? Maybe a day if they come with everything. Longer if they don't want to attract police attention. Not good enough. We need to end this now. Jae-Min headed for the door. Call everyone. Every soldier, every ally, every person who owes us favors. I want Victor Han's entire operation dismantled by midnight tomorrow. Boss, that's war. Full war. It'll bring every authority down on both our organizations. I don't care. Jae-Min turned, and Chen actually stepped back from the cold fury in his boss's eyes. Victor put a 7-year-old girl in his crosshairs. He threatened a woman who works 2 jobs to feed her daughter. He made this personal. So, I'm going to show him what happens when someone makes things personal with me. The fallout. Will be dealt with later. Right now, only one thing matters. Victor Han doesn't leave this city alive. Jae-Min drove to Morrison Street himself, Chen following in a second vehicle. The safe house was an unassuming 3-story building in a quiet neighborhood, surrounded by empty lots that provided clear sight lines and escape routes. To any observer, it looked abandoned. In reality, it contained enough firepower to hold off a small army. Ariana and Miles waited in a second-floor bedroom. The door was unlocked. Jae-Min insisted they not be prisoners. But armed guards stood at every entrance. When Jae-Min knocked and entered, Ariana stood immediately, positioning herself between him and Miles. Are we safe here? She demanded. For now. My people are working to resolve the situation. Resolve. That's a nice word for whatever violent thing you're planning. Jae-Min. Miles bounced off the bed, apparently unbothered by the circumstances. I didn't know you'd come. Are you here for early Christmas? The innocence of the question, the absolute trust in her voice, nearly broke him. Jae-Min knelt so he was eye level with the child who'd started this whole mess by caring about a stranger. Not exactly. Miles, I need to apologize to you and your mother. You're here because of me? Because I wasn't careful enough. And I'm sorry. Miles tilted her head, studying him with those two perceptive eyes. Are you scared? Yes. Of the bad man? Of something happening to you because you were kind to me. Miles considered this seriously. Then she threw her arms around his neck, hugging him tight. It's okay. Mama says we can't control what bad people do. We can only control being good ourselves. You're trying to be good now, right? Jamin's throat tightened. He carefully returned the hug, this tiny person offering forgiveness he didn't deserve. I'm trying. Then that's what matters. Miles pulled back. Will we be safe? Yes. Do you promise? He looked up at Ariana, standing rigid with fear and fury. Then back at Miles. So trusting, so certain, he could fix this, because adults fix things. I promise. Okay. Miles smiled. Can we have hot chocolate? Mama makes really good hot chocolate. Ariana's eyes glistened with unshed tears. She grabbed Miles's hand. Let's go see what's in the kitchen, baby. She paused at the door, looking back at Jae-Min. You better keep that promise, because if anything happens to her, there's nowhere you can hide that I won't find you. I know. Jae-Min stood, and you'd be right too. The war started at midnight. Jae-Min had orchestrated precision strikes across the city, hitting 12 of Victor Han's operations simultaneously. Gambling dens shut down. Drug distribution networks seized. Money laundering fronts raided by authorities who'd been provided with anonymous evidence. Years of careful construction demolished in one coordinated assault. Victor responded with equal fury. 2 of Jae-Min's warehouses burned. A restaurant was shot up. 3 employees wounded. The violence escalated. Each side matching the other, the entire criminal infrastructure of the Eastern Corridor trembling under the weight of their conflict. By dawn, Jae-Min had destroyed 40% of Victor's empire. By noon, Victor had damaged 30% of his. The mathematics of mutually assured destruction played out in real time, both sides hemorrhaging money and personnel, neither willing to back down. Chen found Jae-Min in the safe house kitchen at 2 p.m., hunched over maps and phone logs. Victor's made a formal request for negotiation. Chen said, neutral ground, both bosses. We hammer out a truce before this city becomes a war zone. No truce. Jae-Min didn't look up. He threatened a child. There's no coming back from that. Boss. At this rate, we'll destroy each other. Police are already mobilizing special units. FBI is opening investigations. If we keep this up, we both lose. Then we both lose. Jae-Min finally met Chen's eyes. But Victor loses more. I've already transferred key assets offshore. My important people are protected. I can rebuild. Can he? Chen stared at his boss. You're willing to burn your entire empire for them. For a woman and kid you barely know, they're innocent, Chen. They had nothing to do with our world, and now they're in danger because I was careless. So yes, I'll burn every bridge, every connection, every dollar if that's what it takes to end Victor Han. Chen shook his head. That's not the man I've worked for 10 years. Good. That man was empty. Jae-Min returned to his maps. Set up the meeting. I'll negotiate. But not for peace. For surrender. The meeting was scheduled for 8 p.m. in an abandoned warehouse near the port. Jae-Min arrived with Chen and 4 soldiers. Victor Han brought equal numbers, including his lieutenant Wu and 3 enforcers who'd earned reputations for creative violence.
They faced each other across a scarred metal table. Two men who'd built empires through ruthlessness, now brought to the edge of mutual destruction by pride and miscalculation. You look tired, Jae-Min, Victor said, smiling that cold smile. Love will do that. Makes you weak. Makes you vulnerable. Vulnerability isn't weakness. Jae-Min's voice was steady. It's human. Something you stopped being years ago. Human? Victor laughed. In this business, humanity gets you killed. I thought you understood that. I did. And then a 7-year-old girl asked me if I was lonely. And I realized being alive and being human aren't the same thing. I've been alive for 40 years. I've only been human for 3 weeks. Victor's smile faded. Philosophical nonsense. Let's talk reality. You've destroyed 12 of my operations. I've destroyed 8 of yours. We both have authorities breathing down our necks. This ends one of 2 ways. We negotiate a new territory arrangement, or we kill each other and let the vultures pick over what's left. There's a third option. Jae-Min leaned forward. You leave. Tonight. Take what's left of your organization and get out of my city. Go to Chicago, Detroit, anywhere. But you leave and you never come back. Victor's expression hardened. You think you're in a position to dictate terms. I'll burn this entire city before I let you. You'll burn nothing. Jae-Min slid a USB drive across the table. That contains every transaction, every connection, every illegal operation you've run for 15 years. Names, dates, amounts. Enough to put you away for 6 consecutive life sentences. I've already sent copies to 3 different authorities, all with instructions to release if anything happens to me, my people, or 2 specific civilians. You make a move. You go to prison. Victor stared at the drive. You're bluffing. You'd expose yourself. I've already exposed myself. Every authority in the region knows who I am, what I do. The difference is, I'm careful. My operations are insulated. My people are loyal. Yours, Jae-Min smiled without warmth. W's been skimming for 8 months. Park was feeding me information. Your supplier network is built on fear, not loyalty, and fear only works until someone scarier comes along. He stood. You have 24 hours. Leave or go to prison. Those are your options. Victor shot to his feet, his men reaching for weapons, Chen's team responding in kind. For 3 seconds, violence hung in the air like electricity before a storm. Then Victor laughed, bitter and defeated. All this for a cleaning lady and her brat? You've lost your mind. Maybe. But I'm going to keep them safe. Can you say you'd do the same for anyone? Victor had no answer. He grabbed the USB drive and walked out, his team following. Jae-Min watched them go, feeling the weight of 15 years lift slightly from his shoulders. You just destroyed the balance of power in the entire Eastern Corridor, Chen said quietly. Every organization will be looking to fill Victor's vacuum. It's going to be chaos. Let it be chaos. Jae-Min headed for the exit. I'm done playing these games. Victor's gone. The threat is neutralized. That's all that matters. And after? What's your plan? Retire? Become a family man? Chen's tone was skeptical. I don't know. Maybe I'll figure out how to be human again. Maybe it's too late for that. But I'm going to try. They returned to the safe house to find Ariana and Miles in the living room, playing cards. Miles had clearly taught Ariana some complicated game with rules she was making up as she went, and Ariana was pretending to be baffled while trying not to smile. Jae-Min. Miles jumped up. Come play. I'm teaching Mama my special cards game. Is it over? Ariana asked, standing. The danger? It's over. Victor's leaving the city. He won't bother you again. You're sure. I'm sure. Ariana's shoulders sagged with relief so profound she had to sit down. Thank God. Thank God. Miles, baby. We can go home soon. But I like it here. Miles protested. It's like an adventure. And Jae-Min's here. Jae-Min has his own life, sweetheart. We've imposed on him enough. It's no imposition, Jae-Min heard himself say. Actually, I was thinking. Christmas is in 5 days. Your heating is still broken, your landlord is useless, and this safe house is empty most of the year. What if, he paused, hardly believing what he was about to offer. What if you spent Christmas here? Both of you. There's space. It's warm. And Miles invited me to Christmas weeks ago. Ariana looked at him like he'd grown a second head. You want us to spend Christmas with you. After everything that just happened. I know it's strange. I know you have every reason to never want to see me again. But Miles was right that night in the convenience store. I am lonely. I've been lonely for 15 years. And these last few weeks talking to you, protecting you, remembering what it feels like to care about something beyond profit and power. I don't want to go back to how I was. So we'd be what? Your redemption project? No. You'd be friends. If you'd be willing. Miles grabbed her mother's hand. Please, Mama. Please? It's Christmas. Nobody should be alone on Christmas. Ariana looked between her daughter and Jae-Min, clearly torn. This is crazy. You know this is crazy, right? Completely. Jae-Min agreed. But I've been playing it safe for 15 years and all it got me was an empty house and sad eyes. Maybe crazy is exactly what I need. I don't even know you. Then let's change that. 5 days. Real Christmas, like Miles described. Cookies and movies and whatever else Christmas is supposed to be. If it's terrible, you never have to see me again. And if it's not terrible, then maybe I've finally found something worth more than Empire. Make sure to like this video, comment below what you think will happen next, and subscribe so you don't miss the next part of this story. Christmas Eve arrived with snow. Not the dirty city snow that turned to gray slush within hours, but actual white, pristine snow that made even the safe house neighborhood look magical. Miles pressed her face against the window, breath fogging the glass, completely enchanted. Mama, look. Real snow. It's like a movie. Ariana joined her at the window, coffee warming her hands. 3 days into their strange Christmas arrangement, and she still wasn't sure if this was the best decision she'd ever made or the worst. Jae-Min had been different. Not the cold, controlled man from the convenience store. Not even the voice on those late-night phone calls. Someone softer, uncertain, clearly trying to figure out how to be a person instead of a position. Yesterday, he'd taken them shopping. Real shopping. Not the dollar store runs Ariana usually managed, and let Miles pick out a Christmas tree. A real tree, 8 feet tall, that he'd carried into the safe house himself. They'd spent the evening decorating it. Miles directing where every ornament should go, Jae-Min following her instructions with solemn concentration. Chen had stopped by with boxes of ornaments, taken one look at his boss kneeling on the floor untangling lights while a 7-year-old girl explained the proper technique, and left without saying a word. His expression suggested he was witnessing something unprecedented and mildly alarming. We should make cookies today, Miles announced, turning from the window. Christmas cookies. With frosting and sprinkles. I don't know if we have ingredients, Ariana said. But Jae-Min appeared from the kitchen. Chen brought supplies. Apparently his wife insisted. He held up a handwritten recipe card. She also included instructions. Something about not burning them like I burned the dinner rolls in 2019. You bake? Ariana couldn't keep the surprise from her voice. I used to. My mother taught me. Haven't done it in years, but I remember the basics. Your mother. This was new. Jae-Min rarely mentioned family. She died when I was 15. Cancer. He studied the recipe card. She loved Christmas. Used to spend weeks preparing, making traditional Korean food and American desserts. She wanted us to have both cultures, both celebrations. My father thought it was silly, but he let her have her way. I'm sorry, Ariana said softly. 15 is so young to lose a parent. It was. But she taught me important things before she died. Like how to make cookies, and how to be kind even when the world isn't kind back. He looked up. I forgot those lessons for a long time. Miles reminded me. Miles, who'd been listening intently, walked over and took his hand. I bet your mama would be happy you're remembering. Mamas like it when their kids remember good things. Jae-Min knelt down to her eye level. Your mama's raising you right. You know that? Mama's the best. She works really hard for me. I know she does. He looked at Ariana over Miles's head. You should rest today. Let me handle Christmas Eve. I owe you that much. You don't owe me anything. I owe you peace of mind. I owe you a Christmas where you're not exhausted. I owe you a day where someone else takes care of everything. His voice was firm. Please. Let me try. Ariana wanted to argue, but the exhaustion she always carried settled heavily on her shoulders. When was the last time someone had offered to take care of her? She couldn't remember. Since Miles was born, maybe before, she'd been the one handling everything, solving every problem, carrying every burden. Okay, she heard herself say, but I'm supervising the cookies. I've seen what happens when men bake unsupervised. That's fair. They spent the afternoon in the kitchen, flour covering every surface, Miles narrating every step of the process with enthusiasm, while Jae-Min followed instructions and Ariana corrected technique. It was domestic and ordinary and completely surreal. A Korean mafia boss, a cleaning lady, and a 7-year-old girl making Christmas cookies together like they were a normal family. This one looks like a snowman. Miles held up a lumpy creation. If the snowman had been in a terrible accident, Jae-Min said solemnly, and Miles giggled. You make one then. He did. His snowman cookie somehow even more misshapen than Miles's. They compared creations, declared them both perfect, and moved on to the next batch. Ariana watched them, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. This man had brought danger into their lives, had turned their world upside down, had almost gotten them killed. But he was also carefully patient with Miles, never dismissive of her questions, genuinely engaged in the cookie-making process. And when he looked at Ariana when Miles wasn't watching, his expression held something that might have been hope, or might have been fear, or might have been both. I don't understand you, Ariana said quietly while Miles was washing her hands. I don't understand myself lately, Jae-Min admitted. 3 weeks ago I had everything figured out. Power, control, isolation. It all made sense. Now I'm standing in a kitchen covered in flour, making cookies with people I barely know, and it's the first time in 15 years I feel like I'm exactly where I should be. That's terrifying. Completely. Miles really got to you, didn't she? She dismantled 15 years of carefully constructed emotional armor with cartoon pajamas and impossible questions. It's humiliating and wonderful in equal measure. Ariana laughed despite herself. She's good at that. Last year she convinced our landlord to fix the stairs by telling him his daughter probably loved him and would want him to keep people safe. He'd been ignoring complaints for months, but Miles talked to him for 5 minutes and suddenly, we had new stairs. She has a gift. She has a big heart. I'm terrified the world is going to break it. Then, we don't let it. Jae-Min said it with such certainty that Ariana almost believed him. We protect that heart. Both of us. However long it takes. We. The word felt heavy with possibility. If you'll let me. I know I'm the last person who should be in your daughter's life. I know my world is dangerous and complicated and wrong in every way. But I also know that Miles makes me want to be better, and you make me remember what better used to look like. So if you'll give me a chance, I'd like to try. To be better. To be present. To be the kind of person Miles already thinks I am. Ariana looked at this complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was a mistake, that he'd only bring trouble, that she should take Miles and run as far as possible. But her heart, that exhausted, hopeful, stubbornly optimistic heart, wanted to believe in second chances. My life is complicated too, she said carefully. I work crazy hours. I live in a tiny apartment. I have no money, no prospects, nothing to offer someone like you. Someone like me needs exactly what you offer. Normalcy, kindness, a reminder that the world has good things in it. Jae-Min stepped closer. I'm not asking for anything except a chance. To be in Miles's life, in your life, in whatever capacity you'll allow. Friends, at minimum. Maybe more. If, one step at a time. Ariana interrupted, but she was smiling. Let's get through Christmas first. Deal. Miles returned, hands dripping water. Are the cookies ready yet? Almost. We need to frost them. Jae-Min handed her a bowl of frosting. Think you can handle that? I'm the best froster in the world. Miles declared with absolute confidence. She was not, in fact, the best froster in the world. But watching her concentrate intensely while creating cookies that looked like abstract art made Ariana's heart swell. This was what mattered. Her daughter, safe and happy, laughing in a warm kitchen, surrounded by people who cared about her. Even if one of those people happened to be a reformed crime boss who'd had his life changed by a child's honest questions. That evening they watched Christmas movies,
Miles between them on the couch, gradually falling asleep against Jaemin's shoulder. He went very still when it happened, clearly uncertain what to do. You can move her, Ariana whispered. She's a deep sleeper. I don't want to. He looked down at Miles's peaceful face. I've never had someone trust me enough to fall asleep on me. It feels precious. It is precious. Ariana's voice caught. She doesn't give her trust easily, despite what you might think. She likes you. Really likes you. She hasn't had male figures in her life, and now she's latched onto you. Please don't break her heart. I'll do everything in my power not to. And if your world comes calling. If Victor comes back or someone else creates problems. What happens to Miles then? Then I leave, Jae-Min said firmly. I walk away from both of you, make it clear there's no connection. Protect you from a distance. I won't put her at risk again. I can't promise my world won't create complications. But I can promise that if it does, I'll remove myself before anyone can use her to hurt me. That's a sad promise. It's a necessary one. Miles matters more than my loneliness. If I have to choose between having her in my life and keeping her safe, I choose her safety. Every single time. Ariana studied his face. Still sharp, still dangerous, but softer now around the edges. Sad eyes that had seen terrible things, but still held capacity for gentleness. A man trying desperately to be better than he'd been, fighting against everything he'd spent 15 years becoming. Okay, she said. We'll try. This. Whatever this is. But the second it becomes dangerous, I leave. The second Miles seems scared, I leave. The second you can't be the person she thinks you are, I keep trying anyway, because that's what you do for people who matter. Ariana nodded, not trusting her voice. On the TV, some Christmas movie played out its predictable happy ending. In the kitchen, cookies cooled on racks. Outside, snow continued to fall, transforming the world into something clean and new. And on the couch, a crime boss held a sleeping child with the careful reverence of someone handling the most valuable thing in the universe. It was impossible, and unlikely, and probably doomed. But maybe, just maybe, it was also beautiful. Christmas morning arrived with Miles's delighted shriek. Jae-Min woke on the safe house couch, where he'd slept after carrying the exhausted child to bed, momentarily disoriented. Then he heard Miles's running footsteps and remembered. Christmas. He was spending Christmas with Ariana and Miles. He sat up just as Miles burst into the living room, stopping dead at the sight of presents under the tree. Her mouth fell open in perfect cartoon shock. Mama. Mama. Come look. Santa came. Santa came to our new house. Ariana emerged from the bedroom, hair messy, wearing the oversized shirt she slept in. She froze when she saw the presents. Dozens of them, carefully wrapped, tagged with Miles's name and hers. Jae-Min, she said quietly, a warning in her voice. We talked about this. They had talked about it. She'd been very clear that she didn't want excessive gifts, didn't want Miles to get used to things they couldn't maintain, didn't want Christmas to become about money. Jae-Min had agreed. Then he'd gone shopping anyway, unable to resist the idea of giving Miles a real Christmas, the kind his mother used to create. Santa did it, he said innocently. I had nothing to do with Santa's choices. Miles looked between them, confusion replacing excitement. Did I do something wrong? No, baby. Ariana crossed to her daughter, kneeling down. You did nothing wrong. But this is a lot of presents. But it's Christmas. And Jae-Min said he never got to do Christmas before, so maybe Santa wanted to make up for all the years he missed. Miles's logic was undeniable, even if it was clearly an excuse she'd constructed on the spot. Jae-Min met Ariana's eyes over Miles's head, silently pleading. Let me have this. Let me give her this one perfect morning. Ariana held his gaze for a long moment, then sighed. Okay. But we're having a talk later about reasonable gift-giving, deal. Miles tore into presents with enthusiastic abandon. Books and art supplies and puzzles, things Jae-Min had researched carefully, trying to balance fun with educational value. A new inhaler, the expensive kind that worked better than what Ariana's insurance covered. Warm clothes for winter, a tablet loaded with educational games, and one special present, saved for last. A framed photo of Miles and Ariana, professionally printed, with a note in Jae-Min's careful handwriting. For the two people who taught me what being human means. Ariana's eyes filled with tears when she read it. Jae-Min. I mean it. 3 weeks ago I was empty. Now I'm here, covered in wrapping paper, watching a 7-year-old girl open presents, and I feel more alive than I've felt in 15 years. That's because of both of you. Miles launched herself at him, wrapping her arms around his neck in a fierce hug. This is the best Christmas ever. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. You're very welcome. He hugged her back, feeling his chest tighten with unfamiliar emotion. This was what people meant when they talked about joy, about connection, about mattering to someone. They spent Christmas morning in pajamas, playing with toys, eating cookies for breakfast because Miles insisted that was what Christmas was about. Ariana made hot chocolate while Jae-Min helped Miles assemble a complicated puzzle, both of them arguing good-naturedly about which piece went where. Around noon, Chen called. Jae-Min almost didn't answer, but old habits died hard. Victor Han left the country, Chen reported. Private plane to Singapore this morning. His remaining operations are being absorbed by other organizations. It's chaos, but it's not our chaos anymore. Good. Jae-Min watched Miles carefully place a puzzle piece. Anything else? Boss, about your future plans. The organization needs direction. People are asking questions about succession, about whether you're stepping back, about. Tell them I'm taking a sabbatical. 3 months, minimum. You're in charge of day-to-day operations. Make decisions, keep things running, and don't call me unless someone's dying. Silence on the other end. Then, a sabbatical. You. The man who works 16-hour days and hasn't taken a vacation in a decade. Things change, Chen. I changed. Maybe it's time to see if I can build something besides an empire. Like what? Like a life. A real one. With people I care about and who care about me. Revolutionary concept. I know. Chen laughed softly. She really did it. That little girl really got through to you. Completely demolished me. Best thing that ever happened, boss. Jae-Min, be careful. You're not good at being vulnerable. It's going to hurt. I know. But apparently being empty hurts more. I'm willing to risk it. He ended the call and returned to the puzzle. Miles looked up at him with those searching eyes. Was that work? It was. But work can wait. Today is for Christmas. And tomorrow. Tomorrow is for whatever we want it to be. That afternoon, Ariana pulled Jae-Min aside while Miles was engrossed in a new book. We need to talk about what happens next. I know. I can't stay here forever. I have a job, an apartment, responsibilities. Miles has school. We have a life, even if it's not perfect. I know that too. Jae-Min chose his words carefully. I'm not asking you to change your life. I'm asking if there's room in it for me. Maybe I help with Miles's medical expenses. As a friend, not as anything else. Maybe I'm someone you can call when the car breaks down or the heater stops working. Maybe I'm just the guy who shows up sometimes for dinner and helps with homework. That's very specific. I've been thinking about it. A lot. I'm not good at this, at relationships or normalcy or being a regular person. But I want to learn. And if you'll let me, I'd like to learn with both of you. Ariana was quiet for a long moment. My life is messy. I work nights. I'm exhausted constantly. Miles has medical issues. We barely make ends meet. It's not glamorous or exciting or anything like what you're used to. Your life is real. That's exactly what I need. And your life. The dangerous parts. The illegal parts. The parts that could still blow up and hurt us. I'm stepping back. Not completely. I can't walk away from everything overnight without creating power vacuums that would be worse than my presence. But I'm delegating, distancing, preparing for a future that doesn't center around criminal enterprise. He met her eyes. I don't know if I can be fully legitimate. My past won't allow it. But I can be less involved. I can be safer. I can be someone who doesn't put you and Miles at risk. That's asking a lot of you. You and Miles are worth a lot. You barely know us. I know enough. I know you work yourself to exhaustion for your daughter. I know you cry at night when you think she can't hear because you're afraid you're not giving her enough. I know you're the strongest person I've ever met, even if you don't see it yourself. He stepped closer. And I know that when I'm with both of you, I remember what being human feels like. That's enough. Ariana's eyes glistened. This is crazy. You know this is crazy. Completely insane. We could get hurt. I'd rather risk hurt than guarantee emptiness. Miles could get attached, and then you could leave and break her heart. Then I won't leave. I'll stay as long as you'll let me, and when it gets hard. Because it will get hard. I'll stay through that too. Why? Ariana's voice broke. Why us? Why now? Because Miles asked if I was lonely, and I realized I'd been lonely for so long I'd forgotten what connection felt like. Because you work 2 jobs and still make time to read bedtime stories, and I'd forgotten that kind of strength existed. Because I've spent 15 years building power, and it left me empty, and 3 weeks with both of you has filled something I didn't know was hollow. He took her hand carefully. Because I think maybe I could love you both, if you'd let me try. A tear escaped down Ariana's cheek. That's terrifying. I know. I haven't let anyone close since Miles's father left. I don't know if I remember how. We'll figure it out together. Slowly. One day at a time. No pressure. No expectations except honesty and effort. Ariana looked toward the living room where Miles sat reading, completely absorbed. She deserves better than a mother who works constantly, and a maybe reformed crime boss who's figuring out how to be human. She deserves what she has. A mother who loves her fiercely and is brave enough to accept help. And maybe, if we're lucky, she deserves someone else who loves her too. Someone who will protect her and support her and be present even when it's hard. You really mean this. Every word. Ariana wiped her eyes, then surprised him by stepping forward and hugging him. Jae-Min froze for a second, then carefully returned the embrace, feeling her warmth, her strength, her vulnerability. This was what he'd been missing. Not power or control or isolation. This. Okay. Ariana whispered against his shoulder. We'll try. But slow. Very slow. And the first time you lie to me or put Miles at risk, I leave. I know. He held her tighter. Thank you. For giving me a chance I don't deserve. Maybe none of us deserves what we get. Maybe we just try to be grateful and do better. They stood like that for a moment, 2 people who'd had impossible lives finding something possible together. Then Miles's voice called out. Are you guys hugging? Is Jae-Min staying forever now? They pulled apart, both laughing. We're figuring it out, baby, Ariana called back. Good. Because I already told Santa I wanted Jae-Min to stay. And Santa always grants wishes at Christmas. Jae-Min looked at Ariana, who rolled her eyes but smiled. She's not subtle. She's perfect. She's exhausting. That too. They returned to the living room where Miles immediately demanded they both sit and listen to her read aloud from her new book. She read with dramatic flair, adding voices and gestures, completely confident in her captive audience. Jae-Min found himself mesmerized, not by the story, but by the pure joy of watching a child who felt safe and loved enough to be ridiculous. This was what he'd been protecting all those years. Not himself, but the possibility that innocence like this could exist. He'd convinced himself he was too broken for it, too dangerous, too far gone. But Miles had seen through all that with 3 simple questions. Why are you being mean to them? Are you lonely? Are you sad inside? Yes, he'd been all those things. Mean and lonely and sad. But maybe he didn't have to be anymore. Maybe that little girl in pink pajamas had saved him in the only way that mattered. By reminding him he was human. As evening fell and Miles finally crashed from her Christmas excitement, Jae-Min and Ariana sat on the couch, watching snow fall through the window. They didn't talk. They didn't need to. Sometimes presence was enough. Thank you, Jae-Min said quietly, for letting me stay for Christmas. Thank you for wanting to. Ariana leaned against his shoulder, a gesture of trust that made his heart skip. I don't know what happens next. Neither do I. But I'm looking forward to finding out. Outside, the city sparkled with Christmas lights. Somewhere out there, criminal empires rose and fell, power shifted, violence simmered. But inside this warm house, 3 unlikely people had found something more valuable than any empire. They'd found family. And the Korean Mafia boss who'd thought he was untouchable discovered that sometimes being touched, being connected, being vulnerable, being human, was the only thing worth having. Miles had been right all along. Nobody should be alone at Christmas. Or ever. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, leave a comment telling us what you thought about Jae-Min and Miles's unlikely friendship, and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories. What do you think happens next for this unconventional family? Let us know below.